Good evening, everyone. We're going to start in just about 30 seconds. I'm going to ask that you please type your child's name into the chat box, and we will begin momentarily. Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. This call is for 7th grade parents or parents of students in 7th grade preparing for confirmation. If there is any issue with the sound or when I share my screen with the PowerPoint, if you can just send me a message in the chat box, and I'm actually going to put my cell number in there so that you can text me. While we're moving along if needed. So hopefully, I know it's happening with my computer. It seems to have a little bit of a delay with it, but without any further delay, I'm going to share this PowerPoint with the group. And we will quickly go through the confirmation requirements. What I'm going to do is, as I pass through each slide, I'm going to offer an opportunity for questions in the chat, and then we'll move along to the next slide. So without any further delay, let's see, slideshow. As you can see, my computer has a little hesitation here. Oh boy, I must have a memory issue. Anyway, okay. So this evening, our discussion is preparing for confirmation, and this is for students that are in 7th grade. Confirmation prep is a 2-year process. And so your students are now in 7th grade. They are in year 1 of the program. And so hopefully all of our students have had at least 2 classes so far. If you are in a home group, you should have met at least once in the catechist's home, and then we had 1 Sunday session already, and classes should be progressing from there. You should be meeting at least 1 hour in your child's catechist home, your child. And the materials that they're using are by a publisher called Ascension Press, and the program is called Chosen. At the first class, each student received a book pack that contained a student book, a parent guide, and a sponsor guide. And while we will remind you again at the end of the year, they are going to use this book for the first half of the year. And then next year, for the first year, the first half of the book, and then for year 2, they will complete the book. So lessons 1 through 12 this year and lessons 13 to 24 next year. Tomorrow, I will be sending an email out to all parents that will have a link for you to sign up for an online account for your child. And this is to be used if your child happens to miss a class, because this program does have a video component with it. So if they are just using the workbook, they do not have the material, or they have not viewed the material that they need to reference when answering the questions. And the main content is in these videos. So you'll receive an email from me. It will have a link for you to register an account for your child. We ask that you only register one account. If you do have twins, they each receive their own account, but they have to each have a unique email address attached to it. If you only use one email address, you're not going to be able to set up the 2 different accounts. And I would actually recommend that if your child has an email address, you use that email address to set up the account. We've run into issues in the past where a family will have a 7th grade student and an 8th grade student. And when they use the parent's email address and then try to set up for the second student, they're not able to have a second account. So I will put that information into the email that is sent out to parents, explaining that so everybody understands that it should have a unique email address for each account that is set up. Another component to the program for the students is that they participate in the 4 sessions that take place on a Sunday afternoon at 4:30 in the afternoon prior to the 5:15 Mass. I was not here for the first lesson, and I understand that there was a wedding that went over schedule and it caused a delay in starting our 7th graders and parents with their session. So I apologize about that, and we do not anticipate for that to be an issue again in the future. But we are requiring that you are there for the lesson and the Mass. It's one total event, lesson and Mass, not stay for the lesson and then leave before Mass. Unless your family has attended a different Mass that day, they should be staying for the Mass as well. And then the students will also participate in Holy Hour. The catechist will be sending home a flyer, a reminder flyer about that. And our 7th grade students will be attending Holy Hour on November 29th, which is a Tuesday, at 6:45 p.m. in the church. And they will need to be accompanied by an adult. The adult needs to sit next to them. And the same thing goes for when they come for the chosen lesson in the church. The adult should be sitting next to the student. So I'm going to take a look at the chat and ask if there, and I stop my share, are there any questions on that first slide? If you could type it into the chat box, I will answer those right now. And I am not seeing any pop up. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay. To the next slide. One of the components for confirmation is completing community service. And your child received a form from their catechist at the first class, their service and participation form. And the items that they need to complete are 1 blessing bag donation item. They did receive a flyer that let them know the item that needs to be donated. In the past, the students had to donate, I believe it was 12 different items as part of the blessing bag. But in looking at our economy presently, it didn't seem reasonable to ask families to be donating 12 different items. So your child is asked to donate 1 item. They will bring that to class at any point in time. The catechist will probably remind them about it. And then the catechist will get that to us so that we can give it to the parish outreach. That's where those items are donated to. For students that attend class in the school building, they can bring it to them, to their class on any day that they're coming here for a lesson. They also have to volunteer at 5:15 p.m. teen mass. An email was sent out, I think it was early September, with a sign up for that through Eventbrite. So if you haven't signed your child up yet to volunteer at one of the 5:15 masses, please take a look back in your email for the Eventbrite link that was sent to you, and you can click on that to schedule your child for one of their Sunday teen masses. They are also being asked to participate in one of the monthly faith and sports nights. You'll notice I'll usually send an email out a week and a half prior to the teen faith and sports night. And then I send another reminder the day before, letting you know that if you haven't signed your child up, you can do that. Those typically take place, I want to say, the third Friday of the month, but I'm not completely sure on that. Once I have secured the full schedule, I will send an email out to you so that you can take a look at all the dates that those will be offered. And we do ask that your child participate in one of those. And the last item of community service is participation in 5 hours of extra community service, aside from those that we have listed. We frequently send out emails with requests for volunteers. There was one recently for the CYO track meet that took place this past Sunday. They were in need of volunteers, so we were able to get some that way. There are also opportunities available through the public library. If your child is in the scouting program, there are often service opportunities for them through that program. At Berner, they have a few service clubs, and those participation in those clubs as well count as community service. I am going to see if anybody has any questions about community service. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And if you have a question on community service, please put that in the chat box. The community service requirements for 7th grade must be submitted to us or to the catechist by April 21st. However, if a child is signed up for a mass helper that takes place after April 21st, then the parent will be responsible to get that form to our office after that part of the service has been completed. Does participation in the Making Strides Walkathon count? I do believe that it will. So if that is different, I will let you know, but I do believe if they're participating in a walkathon, and it's something, obviously, if they're walking or volunteering to hand out water to walkers or something like that, as long as they're not being paid to do any of the service, then it will count, yes. Where are the hours stored? Your child received a form at the beginning of the year. I'm going to share my screen and show you the form. So just one sec on that. Here you go. You should be able to see the form. It looks like this, and they received it from their catechist. It is also located on the parish website, the Religious Ed site. There's a selection for documents, and you can find the form there as well. Let me go back to the chat here, stop sharing this. This is not about community service, but when do they need? Oh, I'm going to get to the sponsors in just a minute, and I'll be able. You stated if your child is in Scouts, they can fill their hours through Scouts. What if they help with a Christmas gift donation in their troop? Can that be community service? So when I say service through their troop, it's typically when they're doing a physical activity that they're earning service hours. So if they are doing something to provide the Christmas gift donation, then that would count. But if they're just giving, I'm not really sure how they're giving that donation. What about last year? Oh, no. The service has to have begun in the summertime this year when we sent out the forms to everybody. So community service is for this school year, not for prior. So if your child did something last year, it does not count towards this year's confirmation community service. And the parent is responsible to keep that form and attach any, if you receive a letter from an organization that your child has volunteered for, you would attach that to the service form, and then you will return those to us either through your child's catechist by April 21st, or if your child is completing service at the church after that date, you'll return it to us directly. And if they help organize. So if their troop is giving, typically a Boy Scout troop keeps track of service hours. And if your troop is keeping track of that, then yes, that would be considered service time if they're helping to organize the Christmas gift donation. So I have sons that went through the Boy Scout program and a daughter that went through Girl Scouts, and they do keep track of that service time within the troop. So yes, that could be applied to their confirmation service. Okay, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint now. And I'm going to share my screen. I don't think there are any further questions on that. Okay, so now to the next slide. Confirmation name selection. So the students will be selecting a confirmation name this year, and I'm going to get to the documentation of that in a little while. But two of the main ways or names that are selected are either a reconfirmation of their baptismal name. So that means the first name that was given. So my first name is Grace Marie. So if I chose to reconfirm my baptismal name, my confirmation name would then be Grace Marie. Or they can select a saint name if they have a favorite saint. Or sometimes they select the name of a relative that they have a close connection to, possibly a grandparent, or the name of their sponsor. And they will be doing that within the next few months. For their sponsor selection, there are some requirements for individuals who can serve as a sponsor, and these are based on canon law. And so the individual must be 16 years of age at the time that the confirmation takes place. So if your child is choosing somebody at this point who is only 15 years old, they will be 16 by the time of confirmation. Confirmation for your students will take place in the fall of 9th grade. So they have a little bit of time for their sponsor to become 16 years old. But at the time of confirmation, they have to be 16 years old. They must be a fully initiated Catholic. So that means they have been baptized, they have received communion, and they have been confirmed. They cannot be excommunicated from the church. I haven't run into anybody who has that, but it is part of the canon law. And the last piece is that it cannot be a parent of the child. And I'm going to go to the next slide. Well, I'm going to stop then for a moment and see if there are any questions on the confirmation name or the selection of a sponsor. Are there any questions on confirmation name or selection of sponsor? Okay, doesn't look like it. And I'm going to share my screen again with the PowerPoint. So in total, the confirmation requirements are completing the community service. They will be doing community service in 7th grade and in 8th grade. Similar requirements for both grade levels. They will be completing the confirmation paperwork. So as I mentioned, they are going to receive paperwork from their catechist sometime in November. I will be meeting with the catechists in early November, and they will be given this paperwork at that time. They will give to your child the confirmation name and sponsor information form, and they will also give your child a confirmation sponsor certificate that will have a return address envelope attached to it. The confirmation name and information form is to be filled out by your child and you together. On the front of the form, it's going to ask for the name that they're selecting. And then there's a paragraph below that they'll complete that explains why they are selecting that name. And on the back side of the form, it will ask for information about the person being selected to be their sponsor. The next document, the confirmation sponsor certificate, is given to the sponsor, and the sponsor needs to take that to the church that they belong to now. All churches are familiar with this document. It's a diocesan document, and it's throughout the state and probably throughout the country that dioceses use this form. The sponsor will need to complete their information on the form. It's very basic. And then when they bring it to the parish, the pastor or one of the priests will sign it, and they will also seal the document. Each parish has its own seal, and the document will be sealed. And from there, they can use the return address envelope and mail that back to our office. Each of these documents will list the date that they are to be returned. The confirmation name and sponsor information form goes back to the catechist. The confirmation sponsor certificate comes directly back to our office. When they are in 9th grade, so this is right before they receive confirmation, they'll participate in a confirmation retreat. They will also participate in a confirmation rehearsal. This is right before confirmation. And finally, they receive the sacraments. And this all will happen in the fall of 9th grade. And so at this point, I think I have a slide for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to invite you to write any question that you may have in the chat. And so please feel free to put a question in there if you have one, whether it be about the forms, about service time, about sponsor selection, confirmation name, anything that may come to mind. Well, I hope you're all actually there and haven't walked away from the computer. I don't see any questions coming in. Question, does the sponsor attend the actual confirmation? Yes, they do. In the event, though, that the sponsor is unable to attend the confirmation, a proxy can stand in the place of the sponsor. So the sponsor is still the candidate's sponsor, but somebody would stand in their place on the day of confirmation. And we come into this situation sometimes when a sponsor is a college student and they are at school out of state, and it's difficult for them to be able to return home, for one day to come to the confirmation. Question on what is the 9th grade retreat like? The past several years, we've brought in a group called A Ray of Hope. I am not sure if we will be using them in the future because now we have been informed that the Catholic high schools are going to be facilitating confirmation retreats on their campus. So we may be taking advantage of that. But typically what happens is there will be a session that speaks to the kids about the gifts of the Holy Spirit, the fruits of the Holy Spirit. There will be witness talks, and these are, in the case of if it were to go to the high school, Their ministry team would be facilitating it, but they would have high school students that would give witness talks on their experience as young Catholics, and their experience receiving the sacrament of confirmation and how they are remaining active in their own local churches. And depending on, who facilitates the retreat makes a difference on what it looks like. I have a question here about the sponsor form. What information is their church filling out? So on the sponsor certificate, I'm going to see if I could find it for you quickly so I can share it on the screen. But the sponsor certificate looks for the name of the candidate, the name of the sponsor, the parish that the sponsor belongs to, the signature of the priest, and the seal of the parish. So hang on, because I'm hopefully going to find this quickly. I think I have it. And the back side of the form gives all of the requirements for serving as a sponsor. So I am going to share this form with you. And this is not the correct one. Just one moment. And let me see if there's another question while I am looking for the document to open up. Still the same question, so give me a second here. Well, I'm going to share the form that was used but is no longer being used while I continue to look. Okay, can you see the form on your screen? It says Diocese of Rockville Centre testimony of designated sponsor. If so, okay, you can. So this was the one that we were using during COVID because parishes were not open to people coming in. The form now has added back in this part where I'm moving my cursor for the date and the signature of pastor, and it asks for the parish seal in this location. So the person will type their name in here. I, so-and-so, declare that I have been chosen to act as a sponsor for, this is where the child's name will go. When you receive the certificate for your child, it's going to say fall 2024. And then on the back, it gives all these, the requirements for somebody to be a sponsor. So it says my screen sharing is paused. I hope it didn't freeze when you were looking at it. Is everybody able to still see this form? And I'm going to open the chat here. The form is not open. Hang on, hang on. Okay, we'll try again. Thank you for letting me know. Let's try again. Okay. Somebody give me a thumbs up or something if you can see the form.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. So can you see I don't know if you saw when I was moving my cursor before, but the parish will date it over there. There'll be another line written here. And over here, it will say parish pastor. Another priest in the parish can sign this. And then it'll have a little designation here that will say parish seal, and they will seal the document over here. Okay. I'm going to stop the share on that. Okay. How about any other questions? Okay. And in the past, we try to have in-person meetings, but it seems like more people are available via a Zoom meeting. So I'm just curious if you could type into the chat, do you prefer it when we have something on Zoom, or do you prefer it when we do something in person? Okay, if the sponsor was also the sponsor for an older sibling at St. Rose, do they need to fill out the form again? Yes, they do need to fill out the form again. Let me go back in the chat because I see here, if some of the parents of our class were unable to join the meeting, where will the recorded meeting be located? I will email out the link to the recording with an email probably tomorrow. With the link for them to sign up for Ascension. Zoom, and it seems like a lot of people like Zoom better. I don't like when we don't have the personal contact with each other, but it's more important for us to get the information rather than, I guess, see you face to face. What happens if the sponsor doesn't have a church they currently attend? Can they have the church they receive their sacraments through sign the form? So if a sponsor doesn't belong to a church yet, they can register for a church and start participating and then bring the form. Typically, a parish will not sign it unless a person is a registered parishioner, and they will check in their database to verify that the person is registered as a parishioner. Can they have a church? Where can we access these forms if we don't have? Okay, so you are going to receive these from your child's catechist, the forms, and they will be housed though on the parish website, on the Faith Formation site, and the documents page. They are not posted there just yet, but they will be posted there within the next week or so. Okay. Okay, I think that I've answered all the questions. If somebody had a question that I didn't answer, can you ask it again so it shows up where I am? Okay, I think that's it then. So hopefully you're walking away from here with a little bit more information than you had before. I have a new message here. Okay, and you're just signing in with your child's name. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in this evening. I do hope that I have given you some information or clarified some things that you weren't sure about. If you do have further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Email is the easiest way. And if you, well, I guess if you're on this call, you got my email, but on occasion, I will be notified by somebody that they're not receiving emails, and it turns out that they accidentally unsubscribed from the Constant Contact system. So if you feel like you're not getting emails from us, please reach out to me. You can either send it to me at gracer@srolchurch.org or at the religioused@srolchurch.org address. And both of those come to me, and I will be happy to answer your questions. I'd rather have you understand clearly what needs to be done than have a confusion with people. Okay, so have a good evening, everyone.
Oh, thank you. Same to you.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, you unmuted and said that?
Bye.